Bubbly Steve is available for pre-order at shopclownfish.com. That's shopclownfish.com. You've got less than a month to pre-order this 15-inch plushie. Check them out. Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And it's time for another daily dose of dismal Disney. Now, with all the drama going on this weekend, we actually missed this story initially. Apparently, there's something going on between the Bobs.
What about Bob's?
What about Bob's at Disney? Bob Chapek and Bob Iger do not have the best of relationships right now, according to an insider. And it's because of Black Widow underperforming massively at the box office in week 2.
Basically, in a nutshell, Bob Iger's mad that Bob Chapek doesn't kiss China's ass enough.
That is true.
I'm just going to tell you that's what this is about. We're going to get into it.
That is basically what's going on here. This is about China. This is about Bob Iger having spent the last, decade plus
kissing their rear.
Kissing China's rear, trying to pander to Chinese audiences, and now we're seeing a lot of this go up in smoke. And I have to wonder if Bob Chapek isn't looking at the situation like, well, the last couple movies we created for Chinese audiences, like Mulan, Raya and the Last Dragon, did not perform well.
Well, then they have the Shang-Chi trailer, just dropped another one today. Thing is, when we look at the trailer responses, if you look at I did an article on piratesandprincesses.net, China doesn't like it. Like it's supposed to be Shang-Chi, it's supposed to be Chinese, and they don't like it. They just don't.
Yeah, so, Bob Chapek may adjust his strategy, but he seems a little salty that Bob Iger will not get out of his way.
Well, can you blame him?
No.
They took Iger out, which is when they shifted the power, it was really weird.
It was weird.
But before we get into it any further, we'll talk about that in a minute. Go ahead into your intro, baby.
All right, so before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. We're over 220,000?
I don't know, but it's yay!
Yay! So we do talk a lot about Disney having worked in and around the company in various capacities for the last decade and a half. So we do know some people over there. We do have some inkling as to how the company operates or how some of the people over there operate. And basically, we just like to roast Disney these days because it's very easy to do. They've been we're
hoping they do better.
Yeah, they've been making some poor decisions. They really have. And, Bob Iger, I would say, was responsible for a lot of those poor decisions. Now, Chapek, despite his faults, I do think he is a little more money-minded. Bob Iger...
They call him Chapek for a reason.
Right. And we're going to see, unfortunately, on his watch, we are not going to see really elaborate attractions. We'll probably won't see...
It's already been greenlit,
Yeah, because he is cutting corners where he can. Bob Iger, though, was a freewheeling, free-spending...
I want to point out too that Bob Iger, after he got shifted out of power, which we'll talk about in a second. He was part of the Biden administration. They were eyeing him up, wasn't it, for either ambassadorship to China or the UK?
Yeah, and Shanghai Disneyland was his baby. That was his legacy, and there's been talk that if tension increases between the U.S. and China, that, because those parks are co-owned, co-ran, Hong Kong and Shanghai, that Disney might just bow out.
Well, they don't get bow out; they'll take it.
Yeah,
they could be forced out. They could be forced out.
Yeah. So, or Disney might preemptively just pull out and be like, "It's your problem. We don't want to deal with it." Who knows? Who knows? But it does jeopardize the potential future of the Asian parks right now. And that was what Bob Iger was all about.
Right. I mean, when that horrible thing happened with the little kid and the gator, he didn't even leave Shanghai for that. Like, he made sure he was still there. Because what would happen the same time they were opening the park? Now, he made sure he called the family and everything. But I was like, somebody else could open the park in Shanghai. Don't you think you should have come? But he didn't, because he's been... up China's rear for a while. Now, it was really weird when the power shift happened. I remember I got a call from you, but I also had texts from a couple of friends, and I was shopping, and they're like, "Did you see what happened?" I'm like, "No, what are you talking about?" So they announced that Iger was no longer the CEO, and they were bringing in Chapek. And I was like, Chapek, because he wasn't even the first choice people thought was going to be.
No, they thought it was going to be the guy who was running.
Kevin Mayer?
Kevin Mayer, yeah, who was running Disney Plus, and then he got salty and quit.
Well, understandably.
Right.
But we were like, whoa. But they had a press conference, like an interview with them. And it was like, Iger looked like someone had beat the crap out of him or killed his puppy. And Chapek looked like a deer in the headlights, like, oh shit, what am I going to do? And for the longest time, like even when the pandemic started, you didn't hear like what's Bob Chapek say? It was what Bob Iger. He was making the calls and he was whatever and he was in charge. And I don't think Chapek was allowed to do his job.
Yeah, that's what this article is about. Now, this was a couple of days ago, coming from Insider. An insider went to Insider, but apparently Bob Chapek was not happy that Bob Iger would not get out of the way. He wanted to kind of be the shadow CEO.
Right. Eventually, Chapek did get to come out and start, doing his job, but he was never allowed to for the longest time. It was like Iger was still making the calls, but Iger was no longer the CEO.
Yeah, so here we go. We're gonna talk about this article. It's been getting a lot of chatter over the weekend. Again, we had other things we were dealing with.
Yeah.
But so here's the thing. Hollywood insiders say there's growing tension between the Disney chiefs. They say Chapek's Black Widow release strategy may have hurt relations with China. We'll talk about that. Chapek succeeded Iger in 2020, but Iger has stayed on to bring stability in the pandemic.
Oh crap! He just, he's supposed to be leaving by the end of the end of the year.
Yeah.
He's supposed to be leaving. Was it the end of the year or the end of the quarter? I can't remember which.
End of the year, I think.
And, he's on his way out, but apparently on his way out, he's not very happy.
Yeah, so one senior studio executive familiar with Iger's thinking said that many in Hollywood believe the two men are no longer as friendly as they had been, and that Chapek is eager to get on with running Disney on his own terms.
He's in charge now. He should be allowed to do it his way.
Yeah. Iger has been stalling his exit for too long.
That is not untrue.
That's not untrue. It's sort of like, yeah, you're supposed to be my replacement. So it makes you wonder what went down exactly.
It did not look like, they kept making it like Iger chose it. It did not look like that at all.
I think they pushed him out the damn door. He wasn't ready to go yet. He wanted to go on his own terms. But, from the board of directors and investors' point of view, Bob Iger's out there writing his autobiography while
Star Wars is burning down.
Star Wars is burning down. There are lots of, he way overspent on Fox.
Oh God, yes. He overspent so much.
He bought all the assets, the Fox assets. What they do, they took that money, they turned right around, they bought Tubi, and now they're rebuilding their library with brand new content. They're still doing animation. They have other productions in the pipeline.
It's just a matter of time to come around and they're back where they were, right up against Disney again.
Yeah, it was basically Fox's yard sale. It was like, here, you can have all of our old shit. We don't care anymore because we know you're going to reboot it badly.
Yeah, I said they're just going to take it and ruin it. And
Yeah.
that's exactly what they're doing.
So we don't need it. So you guys can have Alien. You guys can have Home Alone. You can have all this shit. We already made our money off of it. We're going to go start another animation studio. We're going to go make more movies. We're going to make TV shows for Tubi, and we're going to compete directly against you with your own money.
Gave them the money to do it. But you were way overpaid, and I do have to laugh. I think Comcast was like running them up on purpose because they knew that they were going to, that Disney was going to pay it, because I think at that point it was just an ego thing for Iger, and they didn't want to lose. I think part of it was with Fox, they had the distribution rights for the original trilogy for Star Wars, so Disney couldn't really do much with that. So by doing this, they get that back too. And Comcast just ran them up. Like they shill bid them way up and they paid it.
Yeah, I think that, Comcast didn't have any legitimate interest, because I'm looking at the Fox catalog and I'm like,
it's not worth the money
there's
paid.
Nothing. Disney paid it to take them off the table, and they actually gave them the money to go buy a pre-existing streaming service and go make new content. They
just went and bought another table.
Iger, his Achilles heel is his ego.
I was going to say his arrogance, yeah.
His arrogance. He just wanted to buy it just because he could.
This is the same dude who was like, oh, when Star Wars Galaxy's Edge opens, we don't even have to advertise. Everybody just will come in. It'll be sold out immediately because everybody's going to come just because it's Star Wars. And forgetting that he just pissed a bunch of people off, and he kind of split, under his watch, the fandom was kind of split down the middle. Now it has been being rebuilt with like The Mandalorian, and every time you have some 2 steps forward, there's some dumbass move or comment from like the story toy group or something
Yeah.
that sets you back again. But they are overall moving forward, but it's without Iger. So
Yeah. So anyway, because Chapek, he's going to look at the bottom line, be like, is this making money? Yes
call
or
him
no?
Chapek for a reason, guys.
They do call him Chapek for a reason. And also, a lot of the, just to go off here, since we're talking about it, Iger, the diversity and inclusion initiatives, all that stuff, I would say that is more of an Iger thing, because that started with Pirates of the Caribbean a couple of years ago. And Bob Iger is trying to butter up to the Democratic Party, because there have been rumors for a long time that he was considering running for president.
I also think it's that for sure, but I also think it's a matter of they're trying to make them more IP friendly.
Yeah.
So like we know Pirates, they changed it, and
Make a
now
movie.
Red the Pirate. Now they're going to do new Pirates of the Caribbean movie with all females, and and they just happen to have Red the Pirate. I mean they might not use that, but it's kind of they can change her out real easy with a new pirate. So
Yeah.
that the Jungle Cruise. It might not be the film, but they're promoting this Disney Sea. There was Explorers and Adventurers. What was it?
Yeah.
Society of Explorers and Adventurers. My mind went blank for a second. They're promoting Disney Sea as an upcoming maybe new cinematic universe for Disney Plus. The changes they're making, yes, they're touting them as for diversity and inclusion, but they put characters from Disney Sea in the backstory. I mean, they were there before, but they brought them to the forefront. And then over at Splash Mountain, you said before, it always seemed like the Princess and the Frog was kind of themed to the New Orleans Square and Splash Mountain, because that's been rumored for years they were going to change it. They knew there was a lot of pushback against it, so they used the diversity issues to try to push it to the forefront. And if you complain about it now, you're just a terrible person. So they get their way.
To pull out this concept art that looked like it was just thrown together in a week, which has probably been sitting out there for
it wasn't thrown
months
together in a
or
week.
years.
It was well done. It's just they act like it's one thing, but that's just so that makes the pill easier to swallow.
Yeah.
And they know they're really good at masking what they do. We've been in meetings where they talked about how they do that kind of stuff. Anyway,
so here we go. It's common knowledge they don't get along, this person said. It's awkward with Bob Iger around.
I'm sure it is.
And it's just a long goodbye, and Chapek is sitting there saying, I just want to run the company.
It's like having the ex always around.
Yep. Chapek succeeded Iger in February 2020 to become the company's 7th chief executive, but his experience is limited to the parks and consumer products. Actually, Tom Staggs was...
Oh, that's right, Tom Staggs too, yeah.
Yeah, he was
supposed... He left long before.
He did. He was pissed because I think he was supposed to take the position. If I remember correctly, it's been a few years, but I think he was supposed to take Chapek's position. He got pissed off and he left. And then Kevin Mayer, who ran Disney Plus, and people thought he was going to be Iger's successor. He got pissed off because he wasn't named CEO, and got gone.
They went with Chapek, and everybody's like, why'd they pick Chapek? Anyway.
Yeah. So as Chapek stepped up, Iger became executive chairman and kept responsibilities for the content unit to give to Wall Street confidence in Disney's movie and TV making. He's set to depart at the end of the year. The New York Times reported in April 2020 that Iger was reasserting control because of how much the pandemic had ravaged Disney's business.
They never let Chapek have control. It was clear Iger was still in charge for the longest time.
So here's where it gets interesting. This is basically about maintaining relationships with China. But the thing is, the last couple of movies that Disney designed for China were bombs in China. China doesn't need them. China's making their own movies.
No, and people called them out too, not just China. People over here called them out because they were filming near the alleged,
the re-education camps,
and stuff like that. So they've got their ass handed to them over here as well, and that would have been the choices that Iger had made. But yeah, Chapek was trying to get in there, and Iger kept stepping out, and we were hearing that Iger was, trying to take over because of the pandemic, and they're he was going to be the leadership again. And I know Chapek was getting mad because Chapek was supposedly worried that he was going to be blamed if something went down, that he wasn't even in control, and he'd get blamed for it. And they assured him that wouldn't happen. And there was a whole bunch of stuff that was going on back then. I remember I had to write stories on it.
Yeah. So here's where it gets really interesting. This is the crux of it, and it's about Black Widow. When Bob Iger inserted himself back into the company, it was a huge slap in the face. The concern was that Bob Chapek couldn't handle him.
That's what Chapek was worried about.
Yep. A cinema industry executive familiar with the thinking at Disney said Iger is frustrated that Chapek may have harmed the company's carefully cultivated relationships in the all-important China market with its Black Widow release strategy.
They already ruined their relations with China over Mulan, and they didn't like it, and they don't like Shang-Chi that much either, and some other stuff that Iger would have initiated. Anyway.
Disney's choice of July 9th to release the latest Marvel movie internationally bumped into China's month-long celebrations of the CCP's 100-year anniversary. The cinema industry executive noted that China has yet to give a release date for Black Widow. Widespread piracy of the movie also threatens to hurt the Chinese box office.
Well, the piracy's that goes on all the time. That's nothing new. And like, everybody, I want to point out we don't condone that, but they do that anyway. They've been doing that for years. That's not... God, nothing like making up excuses.
That's what this is about. Marvel was also displeased with the decision to simultaneously release Black Widow in theaters and on streaming. Two sources close to the company said. One said the view at Marvel is that the PVOD decision caused piracy issues and hurt the box office.
That's probably true.
That is now they've pissed everybody off because, the PVOD format, which basically the Disney premiere, people were buying it instead of going to the theater, right? Most people who wanted to see it opening week already bought it. But the theater owners are pissed off too, because they're like, this totally killed us at the box office. We could have made more money with a Marvel movie.
Right. But to be fair, if I'm going to be fair here right now, Black Widow still outperformed like anything else that came out recently.
Oh yeah, Snake Eyes bombed.
Yeah, so did like the Space Jam. So they didn't make any money on that either. Even with the release at the theater and with Premiere Access, the theater still did better with Black Widow than they have other films that have come out recently.
So now it's about the stock, because they said that Black Widow's debut was viewed as successful. They're bragging.
Who viewed it as successful? Everybody was calling out how bad it was.
For a Marvel movie, it wasn't good. But they're like,
but comparatively speaking, yes, it was.
Yeah, compared to you have to realize where we're at right now with the pandemic. Movies aren't doing that great, but 80 million North America is not terrible.
And then it took they mentioned it took a nosedive the second week down to like 20 million or something.
Yeah,
Space Jam outperformed Black Widow.
So the stumble is leading to chatter among industry sources that Chapek's positive reception on Wall Street could be cooling. So that means the Disney stock. So, we talked about this at length before, that we think a lot of the buzz around Disney Plus and the numbers, and even if the people aren't paying much, because, in India, apparently Disney Plus subscribers are only paying what's like 45 cents or something like that compared to the $8 here in the States. It's all about the numbers because they want to pump up Wall Street. They want to be like, look at all the subscribers we have.
They're basically trying to razzle dazzle their way into inflating their stocks. I don't want to say artificially, but hoping and prayer. And oh, look, the stocks went up.
Yeah. And it's been a lot of, three-card Monty from my point of view, because I'm like, yeah, the parks are way more packed than they probably should be right now. I wouldn't want to be there for the 50th anniversary. Oh my God.
They just released more availability. I don't know how you're going to even move on that day. And then this is while they're saying, whether you believe in the pandemic or not, this is while they're saying that their CDC is saying you should wear masks indoors again. And the cases are going really bad in Florida. I know the cases are climbing a lot in that area. And they're just going to cram more people in.
I think it's very funny that Disney said the reason they didn't send their executives to CinemaCon, where all the really salty theater owners are, is because of the Delta variant, but they have no problem increasing capacity in the theme parks. Just saying.
Yes.
It's was Schrodinger's virus.
Only certain cast members are
expendable.
They need to worry about.
As long as we keep our executives safe, right? But my thing is, like, if you're vaccinated, what does it matter?
I know we're not even gonna get into that.
We're not even gonna
touch that here.
Anyway,
we don't get into that.
So senior media and entertainment analyst at Bank of America Securities and longtime, and they always take questions from Bank of America.
They do, always.
Yep. Longtime Disney watcher said Chapek has done a great job of managing through the pandemic.
He hasn't done bad. They did what they had to do.
Yep. Disney's theme parks are doing extraordinarily well. The questionable part is the content side of the business, which was Iger's strength. I don't know how much of a learning curve he still needs. He has been open to experimentation, though this last one, Black Widow, is a big one, missing the whole China window. No Marvel movie has ever seen such a decline. They're actually admitting it in the mainstream media. It's not just a bunch of salty YouTubers.
Not just us.
Not just us, not just YouTubers. No Marvel movie has ever seen such a decline in the second week of a theatrical run.
Yeah, but to be fair, a couple of reasons here. No one's going to the theaters still. The theaters still aren't doing well. And, because they did the Premiere Access. But the Premiere Access, if the numbers are true, which I still question, that gives Disney more money overall than the theatrical release.
Yeah.
So bottom line, if the numbers are true, which I still don't believe, on the downloads or whatever for the premiere access, that would probably put Disney ahead financially over other studios that only do, theatrical release. So why would the shareholders and stuff get pissed? That's why, you know what I mean? Because they didn't go to China? Well, you know what? There's a lot of movies don't go to China.
Well, it's all about the perception of the public. Is Disney doing well? And yeah, if you pocket $20 versus pocketing $10, but it looks like you pulled bigger numbers. It's all about appearance.
Yeah, that's because their stock has been based on appearance, which we have been saying.
That's why Disney Plus always has to have more subs. That's why we got to pull bigger numbers at the box office. Even if the movie cost $500 million to make, you want to brag that it made $300 million.
I got one for you. I saw a commercial yesterday. It was for the Jungle Cruise and Applebee's. If you spend for every $25 you spend at Applebee's, you get a free ticket to the Jungle Cruise movie.
Like they're giving tickets away?
Yes.
That's
to try to make sure they say, "Oh, look how people came to the box office."
That's not a good sign.
No, they're for the Jungle Cruise. They're saying it was a commercial. If you buy for every $25 you spend at Applebee's, you get a free Jungle Cruise movie ticket.
Is Trader Sam in the movie? Because they took Trader Sam out of the ride.
He's out of the grotto too, other than the bar, other than the a picture of both Trader Sam's.
That's That's not a good sign. That's really not.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it's because they don't have the faith in Jungle Cruise, or if it's they're trying to up their numbers because it's almost the end of the quarter.
Yeah.
Or end of the year. It's almost end of the year. The quarter's over. It's end of the year. It's the end of September. So we have to get that stuff up. So we have to get subscribers up.
How do they do that? How do they account for that? Because Disney's been in trouble for giveaways, accounting for giveaways,
it never was proven, other than the fact that the whistleblower is still trying to go after them for all the crap she took.
The SEC, if you guys aren't familiar, we've done multiple videos on it. There was a Disney accountant. She was a whistleblower. She came out and said that Disney was kind of double dipping when it came to giveaways. They were like giving away trips and golf outings and stuff like that.
Gift cards and stuff like that.
But they were counting it as revenue.
I think what they did was they were giving away gift cards as perks or incentives or whatever. And then when they spent the money, they counted it again. So like if it was, I think they were doing other things like you're mentioning too. But the one big one they were worried about was the gift cards. So they gave out, say they gave you a gift card for $30. They put it in the books that they had $30. Well, then when someone spent it, they put it in the books they had $30 again. So they were reporting they sold $60 worth of stuff when they actually only had $30 worth of stuff. And that's what the alleged issue was. So
if they're giving these tickets away, are they going to count it as a ticket sale, even though that's what
I'm saying. They're gonna say this way people went to the box office.
Right.
Well, some of them still had to pay for the ticket. Well, pay. Maybe it's Applebee's that's giving them like $1 a ticket or something. To try to get people, because more people spend money at Applebee's. So then that technically meant they were paid for, so they were bought tickets.
Yeah.
They did this with Disney Plus before too.
Yeah.
Still paid technically.
There's a lot of razzle dazzle going on here. Anyway, they're calling this as an embarrassment. They're calling the Black Widow situation an embarrassment. And they said that, Chapek was probably right, though, according to Rich Greenfield, who, again, asked a lot of questions during their earnings calls, because they can't rely on movie theaters going into the future because things are changing. They are. So one rumor going around... That's not untrue. Yeah. One rumor going around Disney is that Chapek plans to stop putting executives on multi-year employment contracts to get greater flexibility to hire and fire.
Oh, well, I don't necessarily disagree with this.
Kathleen Kennedy.
Because we just had they remember when this whole thing went down, the parks got closed too. A lot of cast members got laid off and they got nothing. So they kept them paid for a bit and then they cut them off, and basically they were helping each other. Now a lot of them have gotten called back, but some of them didn't. But while this was going on, they turned around their CFO, that McCarthy. They turned around and gave her a new contract with with bonuses up to like $11 million in performance bonuses. And multi-year contract, and people were pissed because they're like, wait a minute, she gets this and you couldn't even pay your hourly people. So that's interesting that he's trying to set executives or on he's trying to stop that. So basically you have to perform or you're gone. You don't just get to sit on your cushy little executive chair
I have
little executive ass.
Well, I gotta wonder because Kathleen Kennedy signed a multi-year contract, and her performance
has not been good.
We saw a decline in the Star Wars film. Solo was the first box office bomb.
She wasn't even doing her job. Like they were like, whether you like the new Disney movies or not, okay, because some people like them, and that's fine. You're allowed to like it. It's cool. The problem was, even by the time you got to Rise of Skywalker, even the diehard fans of the Disney ones admitted there didn't seem to be an overall story. It was like all over the damn place. Like they were making it up as they went along. Like that would have been on her watch. Like, what are we doing in the first movie? What are we doing in the second movie? What are we doing in the third movie? Because we're doing different directors, so we got to make sure that it's cohesive. And they didn't do this. And it was very clear they did not do this. I mean, people arguing that against that idea with The Last Jedi by Rise of Skywalker were like, oh my God, I think they're right. They didn't have a plan. No shit. But that would have been her job. Ultimately, she was in charge of that. She didn't do it. That's writing 101.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's really interesting that this is his plan, because I think Iger put people in for many years, and you didn't know whether if they were going to perform. And frankly, with an entertainment product, you're only as good as your last movie, your last book, your last video game. And if they're not bringing it, any other studio, Kathleen Kennedy, you might have gotten one mulligan, right? But Solo and The Rise of Skywalker underperformed.
Indiana Jones is setting up to be a real winner too, by the looks of it.
Yeah, and the merchandise did not sell well. Hasbro was complaining because they couldn't move sequel era merchandise. So any other executive at any other company probably would have terminated Kathleen Kennedy, and but they didn't have the legal leg to be able to do that, the legal right to be able to do that. So now if he puts this in play, you have to perform. Year to year, we're going to look at your performance and be like, did you bring it or did you not bring it? If you didn't bring it, you get gone.
Yeah, and they're saying that they're also saying that he's going to restructure the company. Well, they've already been kind of restructuring on some levels. They've turned it from they turned it that its focus now is direct to consumer. That was under Chapek, which makes sense because where he worked was consumer products, experiences, direct to consumer. So he's already kind of restructured the company that way, but it sounds like he's going to restructure it further. Now, to be fair, the reason that Disney kind of made it the way they did was because Iger did push through Disney Plus. And had he delayed Disney Plus at all, they would have been in a much, much tighter place than they ended up being.
Nobody likes to be in a tight place. Well, some people do.
Some people really like being in tight places.
Depends on if you're giving or receiving, I guess. Anyway, are we going to wrap this one up?
Yes.
I think we are. So this is really interesting. Things are going to change. Once Iger is completely gone, again, Chapek is a money guy. And, unfortunately, we're going to see a lot of cuts at the parks. But, it might be that Disney refocuses on what makes money.
Well, it's interesting to me, though, because if Iger's been letting this stuff go on and like with these executives and stuff, he was trying to buy loyalty. Yeah. If Chapek doesn't do that and he tries to say, hey, you're going to have to perform, he might get more performance, but they're not going to be on his side, and who knows what they're going to do. You know what I mean? You can't have it both ways, apparently. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens here when he starts, doing that to the executives.
Okay, so please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. We'll talk to you later.
Bye.